Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Casebold. Welcome into the little radio program entitled Simply Life. I say that because I'm sitting across from the guy that invented this program and named it, Gary C. Johnson. Hello, my friend.
Hey, my friend, what a wonderful time it is to be alive, I hope, right?
Every minute.
Every second.
Every minute, every second.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about how things are going.
That's a good one, because that's going to be different to all of our friends and to you and me.
And again, my friends, it popped in my mind. So some of this may be applicable to what I probably will be talking about to some of you folks.
Well, and I want to tell my friends, I know he's telling the truth that it popped into his mind, because he and I just sat down here and I said, what are we going to talk about? And he said, I don't know unless something pops into my mind. So Gary's telling you the truth. It just popped into his mind.
I was reading a few days ago about how the unemployment rate is down to like 3.5 now percent, and how maybe wages have increased some over the period of time. And then in another article, I looked to see where that you have all these people that are working every day, and they are basically homeless. They have no housing. And I realized that it may be out of kilter. Something may be, there may be a disconnect somewhere. And then it just popped in my mind. I said, well, with those two articles, putting them together, what does it mean? It means that, yes, the market's doing well. And yes, there's not very much unemployment. But yet are people getting ahead is the question. When you look at how during this same period of time when we started getting the employment back and maybe getting a little better wages, health insurance and health care costs have skyrocketed, which everyone has to have.
Yes.
Right?
Well, it's probably the biggest issue with the people that I talk to is the cost of health insurance.
Housing has skyrocketed, the cost of a house. Rent has gone through the ceiling. Your power bill is outrageous because the PSC in Kentucky let it happen.
Just fluctuates to whatever it fluctuates.
And then I said, well, I'm going to look into this a little bit, just out of my own curiosity. And here's some statistics I found out. 40% of the people in the country today cannot withstand a $400 emergency.
Wow.
Think about that.
Now, you didn't say $4,000 emergency.
I said $400.
You said $400.
They did a study on it, and it was published. It's like 20% have trouble even trying to balance it enough to make the payments each month. So how are we doing, I guess is a question I'm asking my friends out there. Are we doing good? Are we doing better? Or is it some sort of fiction that we have come to believe when in reality our security may be far less now than it was a few years ago? I don't know. I'm giving my friends something to think about. Especially when you're paying your power bill or trying to get a home or trying to get insurance, those things weren't that way just a few years ago.
Got a good friend that showed me what he had to pay. $2,400 a month. $2,400 for health insurance.
Yeah.
And he said, I've got no choice, because he had had some problems and injuries and all of this, but he has to have health insurance, so he's working to try to clear enough to pay $2,400 a month. That's a big figure.
So I think that there should be a way that the government, I would think, would look at all of these different studies that's going on and realize that we may not be doing as good as everybody would say we're doing.
Yeah.
That it is a struggle for my friends just to survive.
So the economy may have improved, jobs may have improved, but at the same time, the cost of living went through the roof.
And there's no inflation, according to the government.
It's kind of hard to match those two things up. I mean, when you think about it.
But just the cost of housing and insurance is enough to break the backs of my friends out there.
It's tough to look at those figures and say, I've got to make enough money to cover this cost.
And they said that the ones that do end up, according to this article I was reading, are able to get a home by paying the 20% down, that it takes at least half of their monthly income for their mortgage.
So is it safe to say that most of us are living paycheck to paycheck?
I think that that's probably true. And I don't think it's a good place for our country to be in.
If your stat that you read about 40% could not incur a $400 emergency, that's pretty alarming, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, do I have any solution to this? I'm sorry, folks. I wish I did. I don't know. I guess.
Here's the one thing I get from it. You got the empathy in you to look at our friends and say, God bless you.
Yeah,
I know what you're up against out there.
Maybe we're looking at the wrong things when we look at how we're doing. Maybe it's not people that are employed. You know, I read another article not long ago that you've got all kinds of employed people that have jobs that are homeless across this country. Now, how's that possible?
Sleeping in their car so they can go to work?
Yeah, they can't even can't rent or buy a home. What good's it doing them to have that job if they have no home to live in?
So it's almost a deterrent when you think about it that you're working but you can't afford to.
I guess
to
maybe
shelter.
Remotely, if they decided to not work, they might could get some public housing of some sort.
There's another thought, yeah.
Yeah. But now I'm not trying to be negative, folks. I just happened to read those articles and tried to put two and two together, and it popped in my mind as we turned these mics on that maybe it's something that people need to start talking about.
You know,
maybe it's something that all of these people that want to be great leaders, maybe they should start talking about it. I don't know.
I'll tell you what it made me think of. It made me think of the television program you did the other day when you explained that the big insurance companies had a table and they knew who the person was that had been injured, and they knew their financial status, and they knew that they could pressure them into taking lowball offers. If you're telling me that 40% of the nation cannot stand a $400 lick to their economy, what happens if that person is injured, out of work, lost their vehicle? No wonder they're going to cave in.
It doesn't take much when you're living from payday to payday to destroy it. I guess the way the article phrased it was, the nation is fragile financially on the individual level. We're very fragile, my friends are.
Least little thing could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I guess maybe it's so important to try to maintain good friends and try your best to keep your family intact, because at some point you may have to have some help.
Gary, we recently saw it in the region of eastern Kentucky, where some hard-working coal miners, didn't get a couple of checks as the coal companies had gone under, and these people were blocking the train tracks, saying, we've got to have those checks just to get through the month. Just exactly what you just said.
That's right.
It was that devastating.
And, they work like a brute for that money.
Good Lord.
And then the people that own it are off somewhere in their jet or whatever. It's disproportionate to what it ought to be in that sense. But
you and I have long appreciated the men and women, anyone in the coal industry that has walked into that coal mine and given their life to try to basically provide for their family.
how many times have I said on my TV program that I became a lawyer because I was too lazy to work in the coal mines?
You know, I don't know.
I couldn't do it.
I don't know if it's lazy.
It's too hard for me.
It's hard work, but it's also scary work.
Yeah.
You've got to have an amount of bravery to go into the side of a mountain.
Honestly, I don't see how those guys do it. I admire them immensely. They're doing something that I can tell you right now I couldn't do. I couldn't.
Neither could I. Listen, claustrophobic. Just the fact of being in there.
Well, the other thing is that after a man's been in the mines for 30 years, it really, and I've watched it over the years, having practiced law a little over 30 years, the toll it takes on people been in the mines. But anyhow, coming back to how are we doing? I guess you folks can assess that are listening to the program how you're doing.
And more than likely, you're telling me the answer is going to come back, today, I'm okay. I don't know about tomorrow.
And the other thing is, I guess one of the reasons it popped into my mind is to let you know you're not alone. There's a whole lot of other people in exactly the same shape you're in.
According to that statistic.
Trying as hard as they can try, struggling as hard as they can struggle, and still the least little emergency, and you will not make ends meet. Now that's a shame.
Think about the pressure, Gary, and the bravery of those 40% of the Americans you're talking about that could not withstand a $400 emergency, and they're going out every day, working, doing everything they can, and keeping their fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong.
I don't know what to say it, but folks, I hope nothing ever happens to any of you. Not even a little thing bad. Hold your head high and keep going on and keep trying is all I can say.
It really does make you root for everyone, doesn't it? I mean,
well, it was a shocking statistic to me when I looked at it. To see that and to realize that a bunch of my friends that are listening to this program are probably in that 40%. And I guess, my friends, that I'm saying this from my heart of hearts, the one that really matters. My heart goes out to you if you're in that situation.
Because you're sitting there saying you could hear the information, hey, the stock market's at an all-time high and unemployment's at an all-time low, but yet 40% of the country, you're saying, is in a position that $400 could cripple them.
Yeah, that's what the article said. According to the article. And then so I said, well, let's talk about it a little bit. Let's think about it. But in the same sense, let's not worry too much about it because there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I would imagine that the 40% we're talking about basically has taken your advice. They're saying all I can do is get up every morning, go out, work as hard as I can, try to pay my bills, have a good life, and enjoy my family to the best I can.
If ever there's a time that each of you need to live for today, do it. Because if the economy, the way it's set up, and the country, the way it's set up, has robbed you of your security, and any hope of having any security, you might as well live to the fullest extent you can today. That'd be my advice to you.
Is that the reason you get so emotional when a client comes in? Because all the stuff you're talking about right here, when they walk through your door, you immediately know this individual falls into this category or close to this category. They're trying to do everything they can for their family. They're trying to pay health insurance. They're trying to survive. They're trying to have a little bit of happiness in the dash. And then here comes this problem that takes all that away from them.
Well, One of the things I've noticed over the years that people don't even look at is how hard it is to be in a car wreck. Now, what do I mean by that, Keith? You're going down the road, you're on your way to work or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and someone does something dumb and hits you. Well, your day is destroyed. You're going to have to find out, how do I get a car to get to work? This is the only car I've got. It was barely running, but it was running.
Yeah.
Wait
a minute.
I'm hurt.
And I can work.
I've got to go to the emergency room. They're going to want a copay, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But if I run up a bunch of medical bills, what am I going to? I'm ruined.
Going to have to pay them. Going to owe them.
And just the inconvenience. If let's say no injury, no nothing. Just having to talk to the police officer, go through the thing of destroying your day, is a big deal in my opinion.
It's an enormous deal. I mean, your whole life basically has been turned upside down. But the one thing that you left out is now they have to walk into a lawyer's office and they get labeled as one of those people that's trying to get something for nothing.
Every single time.
Boy, isn't that icing on the cake? I mean, everything that you just talked about that they have to go through, and then you're going to be labeled as somebody that's trying to get something for nothing.
Well, now I can tell you there is one absolutely true fake news. And you know what it is? That there's all kinds of frivolous lawsuits. My friends, that is fake news. Propaganda from insurance companies and big corporations that everybody in this country's got to the point to where they believe. Now, let me tell you why there's no big deal on any frivolous lawsuits. Number one is lawyers make their money by taking a percentage of what they collect for a client. They don't ever collect any money on a frivolous lawsuit. They would go broke. It costs a couple of $100 to file a lawsuit. The lawyer has to pay that. It would take an idiot lawyer to file a lawsuit that didn't have merit. It would take an idiot.
You've spent years and years of your life building your practice. There's no way you would throw all that away.
Well, it's not just throwing it away. It's the business end of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't file frivolous lawsuits and survive as a lawyer.
They'll get thrown out.
They either get thrown out, you'll never get past a jury, you probably won't get past a judge, and you spend all that time fooling with it. So the frivolous lawsuit, my friends, there may be one occasionally because some lawyer is stupid enough to do it, but I'm telling you, it is as rare as a hen's tooth.
Is that
because the attorneys will go broke if they file frivolous lawsuits.
Gary, I know that's disrespectful to say to any good attorney, is that you would take a frivolous lawsuit. But is it even more disrespectful to say to a jury that you could be duped or that you would side with a frivolous lawsuit?
Keith?
I mean, 12 people?
I don't know if there's a lawyer out there good enough to fool 12 people.
You think?
There's something magic about that number.
I mean, you got 12 people with all these years of experience, and you pointed out one time on the television show, they've all got the internet, they've all got smartphones, they've all got family around them, and young people in college. I mean, they've got information galore.
Your normal jury consists of people that probably have 500 years of life experience under their belts collectively. Now think about that.
So you're going to take a frivolous
and some
lawsuit.
little old lawyer that's got 20 or 30 or 40 years under his thinks he's going to fool them. He's crazy.
10 years up against 500 years.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
From all aspects all over the world.
And lawyers know that.
Sure.
They know they're not going to get something.
Absolutely.
And therefore, fake news, my friends, frivolous lawsuits are fake news. Because economically, There is nowhere in the world lawyer. And you say, well, what about McDonald's? Well, if you ever really looked at the facts, that probably wasn't a frivolous lawsuit, but I'm not going to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say it was not a frivolous lawsuit is because a jury verdict was returned. Therefore, to me, that could not have been a frivolous lawsuit after the jury heard the evidence.
So what was it, the guy that took his pants to the cleaners?
That was a guy wanting to be in the news.
He wanted to be in the news, and then the news and the media jumped on it and said, oh, he's suing for $10 million because they ruined his favorite pair of pants. And you hear that, and you build this perception of the system. By the way, that never went anywhere.
Oh, well, you bet your life it didn't.
It was just him getting his name.
He was trying to make a... Well, he knew they'd pick it up and run with it.
Sure.
Because of the fake news aspect of the frivolous lawsuit. My clients in my office are good, decent people that would pay money to not be in the lawsuit and be hurt.
You know, what I found was most amazing is you have told me that you've had clients in your office horribly hurt and everything, and you said, oh, do you believe there's frivolous lawsuits? And they've said, well, yeah, the propaganda has been so good that this injured person is sitting there telling you, yeah, I believe they're out there. And then you look at them and say, welcome to the club.
To the world, because you're going to be labeled that
and
way.
You said immediately they go, no.
I'm different.
I'm not that, I'm hurt.
And that's true.
But the media, the television, it really did a good propaganda of putting that out there.
Well, if there's one thing that I need to say that might convince you is, do you believe lawyers would be stupid enough to waste their money to file a frivolous lawsuit?
That's what most people don't understand. Whenever you are doing a case, money has to come out of your pocket.
Right.
You have to put money up. Your money.
And when you look at the reality of that, you may realize, well, maybe there might not be that many frivolous lawsuits.
I don't know too many people that's going to put their hard-earned cash up to try something they know is frivolous.
You know, occasionally over the years, I've had clients that have lied to us. But it doesn't take long to find it out. And once you find it out, you just cut them loose. That's the end of it.
There you go.
But you don't go over to court and go in front of a jury and do all of this stuff that the fake news wants you to believe on a case. It has no merit. It's crazy.
Well, first of all, it doesn't make economic sense, does it?
If you want to go broke.
I mean, if you want a good reputation and if you want to ruin one, that's the fastest way to do it.
Yeah, but like I say, I keep coming back to the economics of it. That's my best argument to the public, that there's very few, if any, frivolous lawsuits.
You're just not going to put that money up on that.
I mean, these people went to law school.
Yeah.
They've got 16 years or whatever it is of education. You think they're stupid enough to spend money, to lose money?
Doesn't make sense. If you follow it, it does not make sense.
I don't know how we got off on that, do you?
No, I don't either. I mean, you started out on a very good point, because often you say, Keith, you know, something popped into my head. Well, this time what popped into your head is we have a lot of friends out there that's probably working their tail off, trying to make it, and they're probably saying, does anybody know what I'm going through? Does anybody care what I'm going through? That I am working as hard as I can, and I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm looking for light at the end of the tunnel. And you're sitting here saying...
My friends, I read the article. I read the statistics. I care. And I feel for you from the bottom of my heart. I really do, because it's not fair.
No.
There's something out of kilter. It's just not fair.
And those are the people no one's talking about. That's the people that's not getting mentioned. The people that are working 6 days a week.
All I can say in the end is thank you for working and trying, because if you weren't, none of us would be able to do what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're making the community operate and the society operate. You're the backbone of it.
You probably,
It's just you're not being compensated the way you should, in my opinion.
Gary, you probably saw this story in the newspaper where a lady left the waitress a tip, and she was going to be evicted that day from her apartment, and the tip was enough to pay the rent so that she could stay in the apartment for another month. Exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
That was in the national news.
A $400 deal, yep. I'm telling you. And I guarantee you some of my friends that are listening to this program are in that situation.
And to that we say thank you for everything you're doing. Hang in there, and God bless you.
Keep trying. Maybe it'll turn around and go in a different direction for you.
You can catch Gary's television show Tuesday nights, Simply the Law, on WYMT at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights. A late-night replay is in Central Kentucky on WKYT. If you need to get in touch with Gary, GaryCJohnson.com or JudoLaw.com. Either one of those will work. My friend, a very thoughtful show, and if anything, it sheds the light on the men and women who are keeping everything going right now.
Thank you again, my friends.
On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casewell. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.